Sorry guys, my phone rang and my the sound cut out, so I'm back. So let's go back to the story. So with the situation with the Duggars, that case was in the works for years. Let me give you a little bit of history. It was November of 2019 that some locals, I had been covering the Duggars for a while at that point, and some locals reached out to me and they said there was some activity at one of the Duggars car lots, and there was also some like unmarked SUVs that visited the Duggars property to go speak with them. And so something's going on. And that was what was starting to come out, right? So it quickly was, okay, it's the FBI. The FBI was raiding the Duggars. And it wasn't the FBI. So then a local contacted me and they said, okay, it wasn't the FBI, but they were definitely at Josh's car lot. There was a bunch of agents there. It was totally raided. And there's been a unmarked car that has been parked outside the Duggars, kind of watching the property. So that was in November of 2019. And then within a couple days, another person reached out and they said, okay, the local police department is saying that it's child. And I was like, oh, okay, it's child material. So I was like, I reported that. So I said, somebody, a source in local, said that this raid could be related to. So I got a lot of shit for saying that. And then the Duggars put out a statement and called the situation fake news. So they said that the raid did not happen. They said that nobody in their family was under investigation. They said that to the best of their knowledge, none of their, like, this wasn't targeted against their family, nothing. So much movement happens that the media starts reaching out to the FBI. And the FBI says there's no investigation with the Duggars. So immediately we're like, oh, so it didn't happen. The FBI says it didn't happen. Well, then the Department of Homeland Security put out an unusual statement. So first of all, I'll just tell you this. When someone's under investigation, by the time they're getting raided, they have done a thorough investigation. They have gotten subpoenas, and they have probably, especially when it comes to the digital side, and now we know with his conviction how much they had basically already had a lot of their case built by the time they raided Josh. They just needed to collect the evidence, and that's why they were there. But they don't normally announce that there's an investigation happening. So when the Department of Homeland Security, they put out a statement and they said, we were at a business owned by Josh Duggar, and we were there for an ongoing investigation. And that was it. They didn't say what the investigation was for. They didn't say that Josh was actually a suspect. They just said that they did go to and executed a warrant at a business owned by Josh, and that was it. Well, when you go to the Department of Homeland Security's website, there's only a few types of crimes that they specifically investigate. DHS is immigration, human trafficking, and internet crimes like child. So when you looked at what was there, what they investigate, and then you've got locals telling me that the police said that they were there because of child, and that's what the DHS does. So I put that report out, and everyone was like, you're lying. You're lying. They were not there because of that. The Duggars said it was fake news. It was all fake. So the actual executed warrant was done on November 7th of 2019. Then COVID hit, okay? So they get all of the evidence. They do some of the first rounds of interviews. He's interviewed, and then like 4 of his employees are interviewed. During this entire time, the Duggars are again denying that they've done anything, that there's anything to report, that there's an investigation going on. And so it wasn't until April 28th, 2021 that he was arrested. And it was because of COVID. It was because the forensics that takes a while. They had to like go into his computer and do a full forensics, which basically means that they had to go in and like extract everything from his computer, including the thumbnails and the deleted archives of his computer. And by April 28th of 2021, they had a full indictment against him. He was charged with possession and downloading. And the content that they found on his computer was toddlers being and it was downloading and receiving and possessing of child. So he was arrested on April 28th of 2021. And suddenly, all of those people that said I was lying and that it wasn't child and the Duggars weren't under investigation were like, oh, okay, she wasn't lying. No, it's not new information. I'm just sort of recapping like how these investigations go so that you understand that like just because someone gets investigated doesn't mean an arrest happens tomorrow. It doesn't mean that anything happens. You also theorized why the family let them stay with him, and then lo and behold, didn't their daughter marry one of them? Yes. So he had guardians that took him and he bonded. So Josh stayed with family friends of the Duggars, the Count and Maria Reber, who were from their church. And within a month of him being on house arrest, their daughter was engaged to Anna's brother. And Anna's brother married the Reber's daughter, Hannah, in November of 2021, 2 weeks before the trial. So, yeah. And then throughout that entire process, I had lots of sources that came forward, but no one wanted to go on the record because the same situation was they were afraid of retaliation. They were afraid, a lot of them were afraid of Jim Bob Duggar. And I can't explain like why they're afraid of him. I wouldn't be afraid of him, but they were. And I don't know Jim Bob personally, so it's not for me to say like, oh, it's nothing. Don't be afraid of Jim Bob. But if someone's telling you that they're afraid, and if they go public, they're afraid of something happening to them, I have to respect that. You wouldn't be afraid of Robert. The torture stuff was what Josh was watching, not doing. Okay, every single time, I'm just going to comment this, and I don't think this is what this person meant, but I just want to like put this out there. Every time someone downloads and watches a clip of child material, it is not it is not consensual that you're watching. It is actual physical. Every video, or not, is a child. Every time that is seen by someone new, that child is traumatized and all over again. Just because someone doesn't physically participate in the torture of that child, they watch the torture of the child, they the child, and basically re-victimize the child all over again. The crime of downloading and receiving and possessing child pornography is a criminal act because child is a criminal act, and you don't ever want to like say that it's not the same. Josh is already shown that he is a hands-on offender, and that is why the prosecutors wanted to bring up his previous history with what he had done to the minors when he was a teen, was because it shows a pattern of behavior for him for an attraction to minors, and also that he is willing to be a hands-on offender, and that although he was not charged, he committed second degree. They chose not to charge him, but that was the crime that he committed and confessed to. So he almost that dancer and the film star. She said that he choked her around the neck and like she said she couldn't breathe and she thought she was going to. So Jackson was sent to the Alert Academy. So he's currently at the Alert Academy, which is the IBLP's boot camp. So if you go to the IBLP's website, or if you go to like the Alert Academy website, you go and you look at their, if you go to their like application, some parents just send them there because they're going to get a boot camp. But the Duggars have always used this as a way to reprimand and like get their kids back on the right track. So almost all of the boys have struggled because they're boys with lustful thoughts and looking at online pornography. I mean, what teenage boy isn't curious about that kind of stuff? And I'm not talking about child, I'm talking about like adult. I mean, but to the Duggars, looking at a Victoria's Secret catalog or an Instagram model that's in a bikini is so it's puberty and they are having their hormones, and instead of, you know, allowing that to be a natural process, they're actually shamed, condemned, and sent away to camps to deal with it. They're also sent away for being rebellious, whether it's, you know, not listening to Jim Bob, or maybe not listening or not wanting to stay in the cult or having questions about their faith. That's where they're sent. And so, no, not all of the sons have been sent there. And to clarify, Josh never went to Alert Academy. Josh was sent to the Indianapolis Training Center first. And then he dug ditches at some guy's random house. And then he went to Reformers Unanimous, which is in Illinois, which didn't really teach him very much. So Alert Academy, when you go to their application, it asks them like what their struggles are. And one is pornography. Like, have you struggled with looking at pornography? Another one is like, another question on there is same-sex attraction. So some kids get sent to the Alert Academy because they're gay and their parents don't want them to be gay anymore. Some it's because they've tried drugs or they've listened to worldly music. I mean, one guy said that he went there because he listened to a rock band. There's questions about so have you been struck, like they look at victims as not victims. They look at it as like the victim caused the sex. So they want publicly on an application to get into it to know if someone's like, what camp do you apply to that says, we need to know why. So I'm not going to talk about if it's a weird question and it's irrelevant. They don't believe in because they feel like that's a sin against the human, or that's a sin against the self. But like, I don't want to speculate on if the Duggars are masturbating. That's not my concern. Yeah, and their own literature writes the victim as the person that's blamed, and they're told that they will be mighty in spirit, that God let them be for a reason, that it wasn't really their body it was somebody else's body. So yeah, Jackson is now at the Alert Academy, and the first 2 weeks, someone told me, so a former member that actually worked with Gothard for a while actually went to the Alert Academy, and they were also a Marine, and they said the Alert Academy was worse than the Marines boot camp in terms of how brutal it was. They said that for the first like few weeks, they were not even allowed to speak. They couldn't say a word. They were not allowed to talk at all. And they had to earn the privilege to speak. They also have to walk for like, I don't know, on a hike for like multiple days. They are told to confess their sins to their parents constantly. And so that's another thing that that cult does that's similar, is that they have to tell what they're struggling with. And then with the Duggar boys, it could be that they're caught. I know that, for instance, a friend of Jason Duggar, told me that he was caught with unrestricted internet. So he was like on the internet and he was looking at like it. The Duggars highly monitor their kids, even their adult children's internet, and they place like spying, like covenant eyes and all that kind of stuff on their kids' phones, and set up blocks for websites, which is insane if you think about it. Like, no adult should have their parent like blocking pages, but it makes their kids feel like they don't know how to make any decisions on their own. and he was using unrestricted internet. I don't know what he was looking at. It was just unrestricted. So it could have been anything. He could have just been on like a regular website, but they found out that he was on like an unrestricted website or a restricted website, and they sent him to the Alert Academy. The IBLP is horrible, and we have still yet to topple them. I mean, they're definitely like smaller in numbers, but I mean, even given everything that we've learned about the IBLP, isn't it weird that the Duggars are still married to the IBLP? They're sending their son to the Alert Academy, and Jackson is going to be at a boot camp, which will teach him how to suppress his thoughts and his feelings and make him feel like his sexuality is wrong. And having just normal urges as a kid or as a teen isn't wrong. It didn't work for Josh, let's just say. Jackson is the youngest Duggar son. He'll be 17 in May. Yes, the Alert Academy is linked to the IBLP. It is the IBLP. It's owned by them. And Gil Bates is on the board. Okay. So in regards to the process of being like, we assumed that, you know, people assumed that Josh's trial would wake up the siblings and have them leave the cult, but it didn't. We assumed that listening to the testimony in the trial would potentially have his sisters separate themselves from the family, like Jill. They haven't. Joy, Jessa, Ginger, still intertwined, even though Ginger's in California. The boys have not separated themselves from Josh. They might not be talking to him, but they haven't separated themselves. I hope Jessa is, but Jessa's husband is he's got his own issues. If you want to listen to Ben's preaching, you should listen to his Emmanuel Baptist Church. It's on Spotify. It's pretty bad. Ben's church and his preaching is pretty bad. It's just a different form of bad. They're like very brainwashed. Right. It's because they're brainwashed. So they just, you know, it's not, what happened isn't because of the system. It's because Josh was a bad person. So familial, like it's usually a crime that is passed down and it's a family crime, and who knows how many victims there are in that family. Who knows if there's other people like Josh in the family. Who knows? Ben always speaks out against homosexuality. He and Jeremy both are obsessed with it. I think it's really weird when two husbands are really obsessed with calling out homosexuality, but they were not equally obsessed with calling out child. All right, so I'm gonna go. I'm hungry. It's time for dinner. My son has COVID, but thank you for the nice comments about him. We don't, he's doing okay. No fever today. He had a fever for 2 days, and he's had the 2 vaccines, so we're doing okay. We didn't lock him in the basement. He has not been locked up in a closet for 2 years. He has been kept at home as we've been waiting for the vaccine, which he got in December. And it was, by the time he got the vaccine, it was the middle of the school year. So we're currently working on getting him back in school. You think I protest too much? Is that what you're saying? I protest, so I do lock him up in the closet? He does have COVID. He does. He's positive for COVID, but he's having very mild symptoms. So he's downstairs with Daddy, and I was with him all day. Yes, we don't blame our nurse. It's just ironic that he would get it from the nurse, is what we were saying. And I have a cat on the floor. Oh yeah, well the Without a Crystal Balls account says that I lock him in the closet, or I lock him in the basement or something. More because he's a child and the vax doesn't work. That's actually not true. So I'm gonna just remove you from the live here. I'm sure that the nurse feels bad. Like, I don't fault her at all. Like, being in the healthcare industry, you know that that's a risk. And our entire basement, even if he was down in our basement is cool. Like, we have full windows. It's not a dungeon. It's not like the dungeon that the dancers have been dancing in lately. It's not the 7 of, oh, he likes to chew. He's gonna try to chew me. This is, oh, look, he's chewing. He's chewing. You gonna chew? This is Charlie. He likes to bite. Say hi. Oh, say hi. Oh, look. He's so cute. Oh. No, oh, he bites. Anyone else have a cat that nibbles? Anyone else have a cat that nibbles? What happened to my finger? I have a hangnail. that is bleeding right now because of the dry skin. So it is, I pulled off a hangnail on my knuckle. My knuckle cracked from the dry air. I live in Minnesota. All right, so I have a bunch of stuff that was shared by some people, so I'm gonna go check what was shared, and I might come back on later, but I got my mind on my money and my money on my mind, I guess, and I'll be back later. Snoop Dogg, that's what it says. I'm not actually saying that, you know, Snoop Doggy Dogg, Snoop Da Loop. Do you remember that song? Does anyone know the song? 1, 2, 3 into the 4. Oh, look, you got my hand.